Hi, my name is Rick Brimacombe, and on behalf of the Minneapolis Club and my firm, Brimacombe Capital, welcome to Club E. Our panel discussion today is Functional Food Entrepreneurs, Tales, Trials, and Tribulations. The panel is going to feature some food entrepreneurs at various stages of development, and they will speak about their companies and the exploding marketplace of healthy foods. Before we get to today's discussion, I'd like to thank our Club E sponsors, Olson Thielen CPAs, Irish Titan, a web development firm, and Darren's in the back. Thank you, Darren, for being an ongoing sponsor. Highland Bank, I know we have at least one person from Highland Bank. Thank you again for your sponsorship. The general practice law firm, Winthrop and Weinstein, and the Network Connect, a catalytic gateway for connecting investors, companies, and service providers. Dick Summerstead and the powder blue sweater back there. So thank you, sponsors, for making these events happen. Without you, this would not occur. So to the extent that you folks out there can do business with our sponsors, we'd greatly appreciate it. Remember, you can RSVP online at Brown Paper Ticket. They do shut that down 24 hours in advance. There's a little bit of a markup if you walk up. So if you can RSVP ahead of the event, it makes life easier for the club. The website clube.com allows you to sign up for our newsletter and see future events, as well as sign up for the business directory and check out the video library. LinkedIn group, Club Entrepreneur, or clube.com. I'm sorry, LinkedIn group is Club E-Minneapolis. We got about 2,700 members with that. And then there's also a meetup group with over 2,000 folks. If you want to be on the email list, you can sign up off the website or see me afterwards, and I will get that taken care of. As I mentioned, Minneapolis Club is a sponsor and co-host of the event. They've been wonderful partners to work with for the 12 or 13 years that we've been doing this. So thank you to the Minneapolis Club. And if anybody'd like to learn more about membership here at the club, please let me know. Lessons from the Garage is a series of video podcasts with over 200 titles that I'm doing with Dick Summerstead and the Network Connect. It's kind of a Netflix for business owners and entrepreneurs trying to grow their companies faster and make them more profitable, kind of a how-to list of videos. Again, that's Lessons from the Garage, one of our sponsors here for Club E. And then on your table, you can see this handout. It's the 9th annual Minnesota Entrepreneur Kickoff. Happens to be Tuesday, May 14th. I've been going for a number of years. I'm sure you will find it valuable in the event that you can weave it into your schedule. I have Paul Taylor to my left over here. Paul, wave at everybody. You can see Paul afterwards if you'd like to learn a little bit more about that event. Speaking of events, May 15th is Club E in St. Paul, and our next title there is Does Culture Really Eat Strategy for Breakfast? Chum Struve is over here to my right. Chum runs the group in St. Paul, and if you're an East Sider or find you traveling over that way that day, please check it out. It's a good group, and that's a great title. May 23rd, right here, Club E and Upsize Magazine will be doing a panel discussion on acquisitions. And if you're thinking about making acquisitions as a way to help your company grow faster and not just do organic growth, please feel free to join us on May 23rd. And then June 6th, have not changed the website because this is kind of happening on the fly, but we were going to do a lunch panel on brands, and for a variety of reasons that has changed, and we're going to be having a panel. I just got confirmation this morning on a couple of speakers. We're going to be talking about the regulated sports gambling and betting market with Paul Charchian. For you fantasy football folks out there, Paul and a couple of other guys are going to be talking about the online regulated gambling market, which for those of you who know me, that sounds interesting and exciting. So that's June 6th. All right, so today's panel, again, is Functional Food Entrepreneurs, Tales, Trials, and Tribulations. Before we get to that, I'd like to have Chef Håkan Lundberg spend a couple of minutes, tell us a little bit about what he's done here with the food that you're eating, how he's integrated functional foods into his menu, and how easy it is. So, Chef Håkan.
Thank you. Hi, how's it going? Thank you. The lunch today was something we normally do here at the Minneapolis Club. It's not too far from what we usually cook, what I've learned from Adam and his website is that you want to stay away from white starches. So today we had a roasted sweet potato puree, and that's the orange part underneath. We also served that with a little black quinoa and a raw vegetable slaw. So raw vegetable has more nutrition than cooked. If you overcook your vegetables where they get all mushy, you actually kill a lot of their nutrition as well. So we stayed with a raw vegetable slaw. It has a nice crunch to it. Also, something I learned from Adam was that cooked carrots are not good for you. Raw carrots are excellent for you. And in that, we have the secret ingredient that Elizabeth came up with, was an anytime sprinkle, which you can use for breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's easy to put in. So we mix that in with the slaw so you get the nutritional value of the sprinkle. And then we went with a nice avocado oil herb gremolata around. But the fish is a Icelandic cod. So we just got hold of it a couple of months ago to start delivering to Minneapolis. And it's a fish company called Niceland. And they're super transparent. There's a little code on each box where you can scan with your phone and see when it was caught and who caught it. And it's never been frozen. If you taste it, it almost doesn't taste like it. It's so clean and flaky, and it's hard to get hold of that fish. And people like you that now it's demanding fresher, demanding where your food comes from, and taking a little bit of time out of your lives to make sure that what you put in your body is actually good for you, not just taste good. But as a chef, I would like it to be nice to eat and look at as well, and taste good. So this plate has it all, according to my what I feel. So that's it for me. Enjoy.
And Chef,
Yeah.
quick question, so to make a functional food in like the lunch you had today, it wasn't significantly different to prepare, didn't cost more, it's just a matter of being more aware of the ingredients and the preparation.
Aware is a good word. It's just be aware of what you're putting in your body and how you're preparing it. And if you're interested in it, there's a ton of information out there talking to other people. It's not really far from what we normally do for Club E. It's not that hard. It's a little bit of common sense and stay away from certain things. Me personally, I just cut out snacking. You don't need to sit in front of TV eating a half a bag of chips. That's just kind of what I cut out, and focusing more on my breakfast, lunch, and dinners to make them more well-rounded. And we can go into the whole culture of eating in America too. It's very fast food. It's very like, I gotta eat something because I gotta get on my day. Take those 15 minutes to sit down with someone that you like, have a nice lunch, eat healthy, let your body really digest it and absorb the nutrients, and you'll feel better, and it'll be beneficial in the long run. That's my personal philosophy.
Great.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so with that as the entree to our panel, let's have at it. So to my immediate left is Adam Sotham, founder and CEO of My Formulary. In the middle is Dr. Elizabeth Clotis, and she is founder and CEO of Step One Foods. And then on the far end is Justin Ewell. Justin heads up and runs the fitness initiative and education and support activities that go on with the health partners at Aneva. So welcome, Justin. So thank you for joining us today, panelists. With that as kind of a general intro, why don't you talk about yourselves a little bit, and a little bit about your bio, and a little bit about the company, and introduce yourselves to the audience. Let's start with you, Adam.
Oh, no. All right. I wasn't prepared for this, so but I can do it. So I founded the company about 8 years ago.
Lean into the mic a little bit.
Sorry. Aha. I founded the company about 8 years ago as a result of discovering that I had a deadly disease called, are you ready for this, hyperlipidemia? Say that 10 times fast. And my cardiologist, I saw a GP who took a blood test, and my triglycerides were around 1,800 maximum. Now it's 150. And the doctor said, well, you're going to die. I need to get you to a cardiologist. And I went, yeah, you look like you're going to die too. He was a little overweight. So I'm looking at my BlackBerry. It was March 9th. I'm looking at my BlackBerry, and he says, how's 3 o'clock? And I said, what day? I was looking in May. He said, no, today. And I'm going, oh, okay. So then I end up in the office of Dr. Elizabeth Clotis, and she says, well, you're going to die. And we're still really good friends. But instead of prescribing me a drug, which is what I was expecting, in fact, I think I said, show me the money or show me the drugs. Yeah, she prescribed me a book called Eat Yourself Slim by Michael Montagnac, and it tasted terrible. But the second copy I actually read, and I did what it said, and she said, do what it says, I'll see you in 90 days. So in 90 days, I went back, little tongue problem with the book, but went back and we took my blood, and I was down to about 400 for my triglycerides. And I went, wow, okay, that's cool, no drugs. So she hands me a Post-it note, and it says, yeah, fish oil. So I go to Walgreens, and this is a terrifying thing I saw. On the left-hand side, there's 12 feet of fish oil at Walgreens. There's also olive oil and motor oil, and they're all in the same section. Be aware. But on the far left-hand side, there's a bottle of cod liver oil, and I thought, oh my God, Grandma's back to haunt me. I'm not going to touch that. Beside it, really great decorative bottle, cute little fishes, bubbles coming up, and it says prevents fish burps. And I'm going, wow, that's not cute at all. So 34 minutes later, I call Liz, and I said, Liz, what am I supposed to do? And she says, Nordic Naturals. And I'm looking around, and I say, well, there's all this nature-made stuff. And she says, okay, you're in the wrong store. So from there to us having wine about 2 weeks later, and she only allows me to have 2 drinks a day, which is really a bummer. But 2 weeks later, we're sitting down and we're talking about the problem of where do people go to get actual factual knowledge. Because if I had, and I'm a guy, so I'm not going to stand in a line and ask somebody for directions, right? That's not going to happen. But if I had stood in the line at Walgreens and had asked the pharmacist, he couldn't have told me, because they have 0 hours of training, of required training to get their doctorate in pharmacology, even the PharmDs. So he can't tell you. The GP who sent me to Liz was wise enough to know that I was way out of his league. And even if he had, tried something, he doesn't know either. He has 0 hours of training too. So Liz and I sat down and said, well, what's the problem? Where do you go? Not everybody has Liz's cell phone number, but I'll give it to you now. Sorry, Liz. And so, I identified the problem, that there's no one you can trust. There's this new thing that's come up since then. It's called fake news. Actually, it's not really new. I got to tell you, it started with the printing press a long time ago when they were printing tablet rocks, not the tablet rocks, but just the heavy newspaper at the Flintstone, and so fake news is reality, and so the ad in bodybuilding.com or Runner's World or GQ or Elle or whatever that says something's going to do something, you can't trust it. But what you can trust is this thing called a clinical study. So I'll cut to the chase. With Liz's guidance, I created an algorithm that looks at all of the legitimate clinical research, and determines from that research which ingredients, okay, so here's the punchline, I'll say this slowly, which ingredients have efficacy or are effective in the prevention or treatment of disease. And that's my mad scientist invention. It also relates to fitness goals. So losing fat to become more athletic is the same thing as losing fat to reduce your triglycerides, or your metabolic syndrome, or your potential of diabetes. So around the invention of being able to tell the truth, cool invention, right? Can't use it in politics, not going to happen. It is making this available to everyone. And so that's what we do on our website. And from there, we give away a whole bunch of information in the hope that consumers will come and buy the products that we sell that is a function of the information. So we sell carrots because carrots are good for XYZ, and you can buy them from us or you can get them at Whole Foods. So that's the story. It's 8 years later, and
the carrots, as long as they're not cooked.
As long as they're not cooked.
Yes, absolutely, because we
Yeah.
just learned that 5 minutes ago.
Carrots
Okay.
are Jekyll and Hyde.
Okay.
Yes, sadly.
All right. Okay, thank you. So, Liz, your name was interwoven with Adam's story there. So tell us a little bit about your story and your company.
Elizabeth Clotis, I'm a cardiologist. I continue to practice medicine. I've been trained at Mayo, Johns Hopkins, originally from Canada. And I've been in practice for 20 years, and about halfway through that sort of trajectory, professional trajectory, I realized that my waiting room never changed. No matter how many drugs I put people on, no matter how perfect I got their numbers, people still looked sick and felt awful. And in fact, a lot of them were telling me that all the drugs I had put them on had made them feel worse. And it was only when I started to delve deeply into diet and actually start asking my patients what they were eating that it became crystal clear that I was treating the wrong thing. Right? I was treating the downstream effects of poor diet, because that's what high cholesterol is, high blood pressure, diabetes, excess weight. Those are the results, in part or in whole, from the wrong nutrition. And yet, that's not what I was doing, right? I was just covering that up with a bunch of drugs. I mean, if the problem is caused in part or in whole by food, change the food. Sounds simple, right? Sounds very logical. It's actually very hard to do because it takes time, and it takes a knowledge base, and it takes a commitment. And if you're actually using food as medicine, right? We all talk about this, food as medicine. It's like everyone has heard the concept. But to actually do it, you have to really know what you're doing. It's not enough just to, eat a little bit more broccoli. I mean, if you're trying to affect cholesterol with your diet, it's a comprehensive approach. It takes a multi-nutrient sort of, intervention. And so, I started out doing what I was taught to do, which is here's a pamphlet, here's a cookbook, here's a dietitian, here's a website, go do this. And I spent a lot of time educating my patients about the importance of eating right. And every single patient that I talked about this was, number one, like really enthusiastic. It's like, oh my God, like I can actually affect this through the way I live, like number one. Number two, and this is actually the thing that was incredibly disappointing to me. Almost every single patient that I had this discussion with said I was the very first physician to even ask about diet. And kind of reflect upon that in your own experience. Like, how many of you have had a physician that has actually sat down with you and asked in detail, what is it that you eat for breakfast? What's a typical lunch? What's a typical dinner? Do you snack? What are your beverages? Vast majority of people never get those questions asked, and that's astounding. I mean, I'm a cardiologist. I am way down the care stream. This is something that should be addressed like way before, because people have seen multiple other providers before they see me, and yet here I was solving this thing that I thought had already been addressed. But anyway, so it was like I gave all these, I did like what I was supposed to do, referred patients out to all these different resources. And here's what I found. The people that followed the advice, oh my God, it was transformational. They came back and their cholesterol profiles changed completely. Followed the advice. But the number of people like that could actually do it, where medications list shrank and diagnoses melted away, I could count on one hand, because it's hard. And so a lot of people came back and said, like, yeah, I tried, I couldn't do it, just give me the pills. And what I realized at that point is it's not that the solution is wrong, it still changed the food, it's that the tools are wrong. And, people will take a drug twice a day. Well, what if you could just make them change out what they eat twice a day? What if you just had a small little change in diet? Because it's so cumulative. And that's kind of what led me to start Step One Foods, creating a line of foods that were as easy and as effective as taking a drug to help control a health condition. We started out with high cholesterol, and we can talk about that more as the meeting session goes on.
Great, thanks, Liz. So, Justin, you're involved in a couple of different businesses, NAVA, as well as the Transformation Club in Chanhassen, and you've been a user of the products for a long time. So, tell us a little bit about your background in your various businesses.
Yeah, it's funny. So much of what you said is for 22 years, I've been fighting the people you're talking about. So, I've been a fitness professional for 22 years. And we take a very different approach to it. I believe mindset actually is about 80% of it, but then there's nutrition, lifestyle, and exercise, and obviously we're going to talk about the nutrition side of it. And yes, we're constantly dealing with people. Nutrition's, there's so much misinformation in the marketplace, and when something new or hot comes out, it actually makes it worse. We're supposed to go with low fat, so now the food industry jumps on the low fat and throws that down your throat, and then sugar intake goes through the roof. And now we're seeing the opposite side of that today. And then we got gluten-free, but now we're going to have a lot of gluten-free processed foods. So it's constantly fighting the marketing. What's next? Now keto is real big, right? So we're going to have processed keto foods and process. And so the consumers that we deal with have to deal with so much misinformation and get through the marketing and the muck, which is why I love what you're talking about with your website. It's just, that's fantastic, a resource that people can go to. So when it comes to the nutrition side, very much a whole foods advocate. But with that being said, supplementation has its place in certain areas, and that's where with Aniva, that's how I got involved years ago as a consumer. So having been a fitness professional for 22 years, you can imagine the amount of people who have approached me to try to hawk their stuff, sell their stuff. I've tried so many different things, and I actually discovered Aniva kind of by accident, and just I really enjoyed where they were coming from. So my perspective up here as a panelist is pretty unique, right? Because I was a consumer, and I had a beneficial effect, so it made me go, I got to know what's different about these guys. And through a personal connection, I was able to actually meet Andy, the CEO, who was going to be here today, and just got to know them as a family and as a company and their mission. Like you said, first question is, it tends to be actually, how's your sleep? Then it's, how's your nutrition? How's your stress? And then Dr. Ben will say, okay, maybe now we can talk about supplementation. I love that approach. So we're very much a whole foods first, wellness-based approach. And then supplementation, if you understand the word, it's supplementing the diet. So where does it have its place? Fish oil, you brought up as an example. And then my passion for Aniva and why I came on and started working as a consultant with them and this fitness initiative is because they're so focused on the purity and the efficacy of the product. So it makes me feel good as a consumer, which makes me feel good about representing it. We started carrying in our facility in 2016 and very quickly became the #1 retailer in the world of their product for good reason. Because there's such a passion behind it. So now my mission in helping them their mission is to bring wellness to the world, and I'm trying to do that through fitness.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us, you three. And then we did go through and work up a list of questions. But as always, if somebody would like to chime in with their own question, raise your hand and we'll try to weave you in. So just for the panel in general, no specific order as to who answers first or anything, but was there an aha moment that some of you talked about a little bit to get into the food industry, or even different than that, an aha moment as inspiration for the company?
I could say for myself, starting with nutrition, having a fitness background, and a lot of people get into fitness for different reasons. Whether it's they're trying to lose weight, improve their health, their cholesterol. A lot of stuff that we deal with actually is more around eliminating insecurities and helping people improve their self-esteem. But people will try to generally out-exercise a bad diet, and you just can't do that. So in my youth, that's when I really kind of figured out, wow, it's not even about the programs, the exercise. It's really the nutrition is everything, because you can have the perfect program in exercise, you can work your butt off, but if you're not supporting your body with nutrition, that's a big deal. It's the deal. So that's how I fell into nutrition and learning about supplements. Aniva actually has a unique story in and of itself, where Dr. Ben, who is the co-founder, chief medical officer, was doing some pretty high-level research in college and did some pretty profound things with liquid nutrition. But without getting too deep into the personal story, their dad had a challenge, heart, and went through quadruple bypass, and the Mayo Clinic basically said, we can ease your pain, but you better get your affairs in order. And thank God Ben and Andy just weren't having that, and using their knowledge and their drive, started formulating different products to try to help their father. And long story short, when he went back to the Mayo, it was one of those things where, like, my God, if I didn't know this was your scan, I would think this was somebody else's heart. What are you doing? Keep doing it. And that was kind of the foundation. So it's one of the things I love about the story of their company is it started with the family and then how it's expanded and branched out. So that was kind of, I think, their big aha and going down that road.
Right.
I mean, I think I described a little bit of my aha moment,
Yep.
which is, just seeing my patients not thrive despite the latest and greatest, treatments I could throw at them. I think my other aha moment was a conference I went to, and it was called Food is Medicine. And one of the presenters was actually a chef from California, Rebecca Katz, and she kind of took over the food supply for the conference. And it was a 4-day thing, and about day 2.5, I'm like, God, I feel great. Like, I just feel so much better. And this was a good 10 years ago. And I was like, and then she came up and she talked about what she had done, and it was, it was organic, gluten-free, it was vegan. I mean, and all these things, like, I'd never eaten this way. I mean, I never really even thought about how much food influenced how I felt, and so it was. I think that was one of the sparks that was also, kind of thrown into this mix, is sort of seeing how food affects health on a very personal level. And I don't have any illnesses or anything, but just like feeling so different because in a short period of time, because I had changed what I was putting into my body.
There's nothing wrong with Liz except for the company she keeps. Otherwise, she's perfect. So for me, it was obviously Liz, and it wasn't the first time I was with Liz, because it's like, read this book. But when I came back, and then the other part of the story is another 90 days later, after the fish oil, I was down in the low 200s. So she prescribed me a very distant cousin of Lipitor, which I took because I like to drink far too much wine. And then eventually, it took years, but she convinced me to drink less wine, and now I don't take any drugs at all. So it was just, I didn't give anything up. In fact, my whole world went from kind of a bland diet to a much more interesting and exciting diet, and it was this point of discovery. So, aha moment was, it actually worked on me. And then that aha it almost happens every day, because I hear about somebody, I talk to somebody who has been, where their disease state has been mitigated or cured or abated, whatever you want to do. They were sick, now they're well. I really don't care about what they ate or what happened, as long as it happened naturally. The other aha also came at a conference with Dr. David Eisenberg, who I met through the Center of Spirituality and Healing, and Mary Jo Kreitzer, and Diane Levis here from the center today. In any case, Mary Jo had David here in town talking about the next step. So my formulary is all about, here are the ingredients that work for you. Well, now, okay, that's great. That's like telling a chemist, here's a whole bunch of chemicals over here, a whole bunch of elements. Well, now what am I going to do? So between the Harvard School of Public Health, the Culinary Institute of America, the Center for Spirituality and Healing, they're teaching about what you do with these ingredients, and indeed, they teach people like Chef Hawken. So the other aha was I actually ate a grape for the first time in my life. I had never eaten before after, and I won't tell you how it happened, because you might want to go and experience yourself, but that was the aha. We have ahas all the time, which makes our job very exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Question, just checking in with everybody in the back. Can you hear them okay? Okay. Can't tell with the volume sometimes. All right, so thank you. Tell us a little bit about your company's products and services and how they create differentiation in the market.
Okay, so I'll start. So, and you got little pamphlets on the table, but it's really a sort of a simple concept, which is take familiar foods that people use all the time and just make them exceptionally good for you, and formulate them in a way that achieves a health outcome that is measurable. And make it super simple and easy to do. So for us, it's a twice-a-day food substitution with familiar products. Typically, breakfast and snack are the items, and really what we're selling is not necessarily food. It's really a health outcome, and it's a health result. So this is a little bit different, and we've done a clinical trial. We've taken basically the concept of food as medicine to its extreme, literal interpretation. So it's instead of take this pill twice a day, take this food twice a day instead of something you're eating already. That's it. We don't ask you to become a vegan. We don't ask you to start a yoga routine. If you want to do that, awesome. We'll support you all the way. But even with a tiny, tiny nutritional change, if it's the right one, you can attain a measurable health benefit. So when we started, actually, to be honest, I was astounded at the results we were getting. So people would be calling us and telling us, like, you won't believe what happened. My cholesterol, my LDL, so bad cholesterol, dropped 30 points, 40 points, 80 points. Our average customer report was 39 points in 30 days. I mean, that was I wasn't even expecting that. And I think the benefit is it's a twofer effect. One is you're adding in, a nutritious, super nutritionally dense product into your diet, but it's a substitution. So you're taking something out that was actually being counterproductive to your health. So it's a dual effect, which only food can do, right? Whether it's drugs, when you add drugs, you're just adding something, right? You're not necessarily changing the underlying driver. And so then we were like, well, okay, this is almost crazy. So we went on and did a clinical trial, a pharmaceutical level clinical trial. I don't think any other food company has actually done this, where in the real world, we gave people a box of food and said, here, go eat this twice a day, whatever you want out of this box, and then come back in 30 days and we'll recheck your cholesterol profile. And, on average, we reduced LDL cholesterol by 9%, which from a public health perspective is unbelievable. That reduces the risk of heart disease, by close to 20% across the country. That's crazy, right? With just 2 little food substitutions a day. But within that cohort, there were people who had 20, 30, 40% LDL reductions. That's a medication level effect obtained with food. There are 70 million people who are candidates for cholesterol-lowering drugs, statins like, Lipitor, Crestor. 1 in 3 can't or won't take the drug, either because they develop side effects or because they don't want to be on a pill for the rest of their lives. 50% of people who are on statins are not at goal. So there's a lot of people who need something else besides just the drug. So that's the thing we're trying to fill.
Yeah, and there's tremendous side effects of those drugs too. So I feel like these go so well together. So again, outcome-based clinical studies, trials. With Dr. Ben's background and the liquid technology and a whole foods-based approach, whether it be you putting actual whole foods into a liquid supplement, for example, the flagship product Vibe, which, by the way, I left out of the story. 20 years later, Dr. Ben and Andy's father is still alive. There's 30 fruits and vegetables in Vibe. The energy shot's got 13 fruits and vegetables. So it's a whole foods based approach. And how do we take all these nutrients? And one of the things you have to understand with supplementation is when you start putting a bunch of nutrients into a bottle, that's not going to work. Okay, they have to play nice together. That's the hardest part. How do you get them to not cancel each other out? How do they play nice together in the bottle? How do they stay fresh? And then when they come into the body, generally speaking, they're going into an unhealthy body. Right, because even the average person is unhealthy, whether it be gut issues or things of that nature. So it's how do I take this nutrient, get it to play with the other nutrients, and then put it into the body and bypass all of the unhealthy stuff. And we can use the gut as an example, and then actually get the nutrients into the cells so that they can do their job. Manipulate DNA, turn on this, turn off that. How do you do that, right? That's what Aniva's whole focus is on, is creating those formulas that actually create that outcome that we're looking for. And I think, just my own personal experience outside of Aniva, there's so many products that you're lucky if what's on the bottle is actually in the bottle, right? That's scary because there's no regulation. And then even if it is, you can test it and say, yes, what's on the label is actually there. does it actually absorb and do its job? And that's where Aniva separates. One of the other unique things is it's actually manufactured here in an FDA-regulated facility in Plymouth, which you can actually visit, which is pretty cool.
So yes, in shameful promotion, by the way, in front of every seat you have a couple of Aniva products, and again the Aniva Ultra Resveratrol. I can't say that.
Transresveratrol, very hard to say.
Oh, thanks. Okay, he can say it. Weird. It was in all of your iced tea, your lemonade, etc. And there's a Step 1 bar. Now, both of Andy Becker's and Liz's companies. So what do we do, right? That's the question. Well, we're the curator of companies like them. Because it comes back to, again, who are you going to trust? Well, we trust clinical science. And so we decide only based upon the science. It's not based upon the brand. It's not based upon the size. It's not based upon anything. We can't be bought, sold. The facts are the facts, and they remain the facts. So what's interesting is we look for showcase companies that are bigger, better, badder than the others, and they have to have scientific basis around the product. So our science is all around the ingredient. But if you take 3 ingredients and each of them have X, Y, and Z efficacy, and in both cases here, you put them together, the net effect is greater than the X, Y, and Z. So, 1 + 2 is 18 versus separated or prepared differently, it might be just 1 + 2 is 3. So yes, as a company, that's what we do. And we do it through a lot of education. And we're in the restaurant. We're coming into the restaurant space where we'll actually help chefs. Chef Hawkins, one of my first volunteers. And he's making meals that are going to cause the members here to last longer. And, dead members don't pay bills. I'm going to get a T-shirt. Anyone want one of those? Yeah. Dead members don't pay. It's vetting and helping restaurants do it. It's helping public health, public schools. We're working with the White Earth tribe, and they don't even know how to cut a chicken, let alone how to cook the chicken. So there's all sorts of these problems that need to be solved. But at the core of it is, what are the ingredients that are efficacious, and eat those, because even if you're eating junk the rest of the time, it's better. Now, our job is to get people off the junk. Hawkins said he doesn't snack anymore. Well, Kelly, who works with me, says her kids are snacking all the time, and the teacher was just like, "What?" When she was telling her high school or her kids' teacher, and and grapes and apples and carrots, and it's like, "Oh, that's weird." And it's like, "Oh, anyway."
All right. So as we look forward, forward, I guess to me, if say a year from now first, and then maybe out a little further, like say 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. As you look forward, where do you see your company going, and then where do you see the industry going?
So Aniva is kind of a 2-prong attack between online e-commerce and getting out to the consumers, and part of that is providing more and more education, leading with that. The other side, the initiative that I kind of more work with, is getting involved with naturopaths, chiropractors, doctors, physicians, the health space, fitness professionals who are credible, and getting out that way to the consumer, because we have to get advocates who understand the importance of a whole foods-based nutrition first, and then adding in supplements as necessary. So it's really, for us, our big focus right now is kind of creating that army of advocates who understand the importance of nutrition, number one, and then where does supplementation fit in. So we're very excited about where that's going, and the relationships that we're building in the medical community and the fitness community. And then you can't stop Dr. Ben from formulating and creating new products. So there's some pretty exciting stuff coming down the line with new products. Obviously, we can't get into that.
Sure.
But very excited about some new formulations and products and entering some new spaces. There's some very popular stuff coming forward.
Okay.
So I think we have very sort of parallel paths. So Step 1 Foods right now is a direct-to-consumer e-commerce company, and we plan on continuing to grow that. We're also looking at, in 3 years, being quite prevalent within the care stream itself. We answer a real issue for patients, insurers, employers who are trying to, cut down their healthcare costs. There's all these places where we can make a difference with our products. In the sort of short term, there's the need to increase the actual number of things we offer to people, because just like a medication, if you're going to use step 1 foods to control your cholesterol, and you can do this on your own. I mean, like, that's the magic, right? People don't have to be tied to step 1 foods forever, but if you're going to use this, you need to do it twice a day for kind of forever. So it's something that we need to have, like, people not get bored and have enough choice that they can kind of continue using this and feel happy with the product set. So there's kind of growth vertically in terms of product choices, and then growth horizontally in terms of specifically addressing other health issues that could benefit from a specific underlying nutrition support solution, which is frankly endless. There is no, it's limitless in terms of the number and the types of conditions that could benefit from a specific nutrition solution, whether it's diabetes, prediabetes, whether it's kidney disease, cancer, inflammatory bowel. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and we see us as being kind of on the forefront of developing products for all of those conditions over the long term.
Yes, and again, we're curators, so we're always looking for brands. We have a mission. The goal is to add one great brand like Liz Randy's a month. The goal is to do one a week, Scott. Yes, technical work's lots of fun. But in terms of the vision for us, it's about spreading the word of trust, that you can come to us for trust. Whether you buy products from us or not, yeah, it matters to our bottom line. We're going to make money one way or another somehow. We don't know how it will be ultimately. We haven't proved that out. But trust is critical. So we're the curator of all this knowledge. I am in a sort of a 5-way discussion between United Health, Blue Cross, Medica, and Bright Health. And the discussion is twofold. How do we get these companies to start helping their insureds to focus on functional food as a method of wellness and as treatment for disease? How do we, that's part A. Part B is, how do we get these companies to pay? So, okay, Dr. Clotis writes a prescription for Lipitor and it's X dollars to UHG. Well, what if Dr. Clotis wrote a prescription with a small p to Step 1 Foods and it gets paid by UHG? So we're working on that initiative too. So these are the sort of things, yes, we're here to make money, but it's profit with a purpose. And it looks so much better as an epitaph on your tombstone. So that's not the pizza, by the way. Okay, just don't, yeah.
So what, as you kind of look backward in the gestation of your various businesses, what's been the greatest challenge that you've overcome thus far? And then kind of, again, looking out into the future, what do you think is the biggest hurdle looking forward?
I mean, the biggest challenge is getting the information and the education, right? Because there's just so many choices. And there's 2 ways to look at this. I mean, confused customers don't buy. Right, that's one thing. So if we're talking about dollars and cents in marketing, confused customers don't buy. So getting the right education, and then we're literally, I mean, all of us here, I believe, I mean, we're trying to change the culture. I mean, we talked when the chef was speaking. He's talking about he didn't get into it, but there's culture around food. There's culture around meals, and it literally, like, if we're going to bring wellness to the world and we're going to get people to understand the power of food. It's going to take a lot of education, and it has taken a lot of education because, as you mentioned, people would just rather pop a pill a lot of times. I mean, how many times have I heard in 22 years, if you could just give me a pill to take this fat off my butt, that would be great. It doesn't exist, right? But
it doesn't?
Yeah, but somebody, no, unfortunately not.
Darn it.
But if you go online at bodybuilding.com, as you mentioned, or wherever else, there's a whole bunch of claims about this pill will shrink your waist and all that, right? So that's the battle that we as consumers deal with. And then as a company, it's how do we, fight that battle and do it in a way that feels good for us, so we can sleep at night, and bring that education to the people. So I think education is always going to be the main goal and probably always going to be the biggest struggle.
So there's lots of challenges. I think if I kind of reflect upon it, one of the big ones was with Step 1 Foods, we're a whole new category. Like, this category does not exist, right? Like I said, people talk about as food as medicine, but there's really no products that fit into that space. And so no one knows what to do with us, right? Like, and so part of the big challenge early on, now it's easy, but early on was frankly finding funding, because the community, the investment community, kind of said, well, you're not a device, and so what's your patent? Well, it's like, it's food. And then and the food company goes, well, how come you're using such expensive ingredients? You'll never make a profit. It's like, well, but we're trying to affect health. So it was really challenging to kind of explain what it is that we were doing, and to get funding for a clinical trial. You want to talk about expensive. Wow. And we happen to have the incredible luck of, finding the government of Manitoba to carry the vast burden of the financial the financial hit of doing something like that. And it's because we happen to use some ingredients from Manitoba, and they have these kind of really functional, high nutritive crops that they're trying to get into the marketplace that no one's using, because we're all addicted to soy and corn. And so it was kind of one of these things that kind of happened. But I think a big challenge for sure was funding.
Oh yeah. So before you leave the room, I'll need $100,000. It is funding, and it's because, again, we were at the cutting, bleeding edge, as was Liz, in this category. I mean, you are hearing the words today: functional food, functional medicine, functional athletics, functional fitness. But this is really, really new. And again, it's like, wait, you're saying that food, so my favorite line is 80%, I never get dates from this, by the way, but 80% of chronic disease is caused by food. And now just think about that, 80%. Well, the answer, by the way, is 80% can be cured from food. That was the cause of the cure. And you go, hold it. It's like when Mom said, you are what you eat, and you whatever. Well, you really are what you eat. So we've got the same problem. We've had the same problem. Are we a research company? Are we a retailer? Are we an e-commerce company? Are we a software as a service? I mean, we have elements in all of that. And we want to get in restaurants, and we want to get in recipes. We have 270,000 recipes we're going to give away to people that you can say, hey, I've got hyperlipidemia, and it's my favorite word, hyperlipidemia and gout, and what's the right chicken cordon bleu for me? So yeah, it comes down to being able to tell the right story to the right person who's going to gravitate to the aspect of what we do.
Great. Thank you. I had a question back here.
Yeah. As you try to enter working into traditional care streams, have you addressed the problem of the fact that you're in a stream of functional food where there are some bad actors, say, where because it's unregulated, you have people putting products out there that say they do something that they don't, or don't contain the ingredients that they do, and as you're trying to negotiate collectively as a group that functional foods are effective, how have you addressed that those companies are making the same claim with products that
Sure. Let me just catch that and spit it back at you all in the event you didn't hear it in the back, as well as for the video. In essence, you're asking about bad actors in the category making claims that aren't true. Back to your point, Justin, about taking a pill to make people's stomach smaller, flatter, butt smaller, whatever. So how do you folks who are on the light side deal with and manage the fallout from the bad actors?
Well, I mean, you had already mentioned it, and the same for us. I mean, it's the clinical studies, it's the trials, it's the facts, the curation. that Adam does. I mean, we have the information, so it's up to us to arm those people with the information. I will say one of the challenges in getting into some of the healthcare space is actually we have so many clinicians who love the product, but their number one obstacle is they're so busy hands-on with patients, one after the other, fighting with the insurance. To make their living, it's very difficult for them to do the additional research, do the additional education. That's actually been one of our biggest struggles in getting into working with more and more physicians and chiropractors, is they're just so busy, and be able to get them to understand the difference.
So I'll jump in here because, Liz and Andy and Eva and Step One are the answer to your question. But it comes down to, in our case, a formulary panel that says these are the methods by which we will determine whether somebody's a fake or not, whether it's fake news or not. And it's kind of first do no harm. So every major retailer out there has a policy. Whole Foods is pretty good. Target isn't terrible. And the policy starts like, okay, what are we going to buy? So this is a merchandiser. Well, it starts with the rules, but then the merchandisers have to get in to decide: are we going to have nature-made fish oil on our shelf, or are we going to have Nordic Naturals, or are we going to have both? And that's where we, as a retailer, have to go and instruct the merchandiser to look to the experts who can say, yeah, Nordic Naturals is great, and nature-made is, wow, okay, I can't say that word on film, can I? So it really is about setting standards and curating. There is no perfection here. There will be products, and sometimes by no fault of the manufacturer, that will get through that there's something wrong with it. There's supplier and supply chains is very, very complicated. And so all you can do is set a standard, and whether it's Whole Foods or Kowalski's or Lund's or Cub or anyone or Kroger's, you can ask them what that standard is. Now, I was mortified to see Cheerios on Whole Foods shelf, and I lost a lot of faith in Whole Foods when I saw that. And I'm like a huge supporter. I hope they buy us. But they have to get rid of the Cheerios. So it does come down to this trust thing, and I think that they lost a lot of people's trust from seeing that, even though it's on the bottom shelf and a hidden part of the section. So,
All right.
I think the other thing to keep in mind is that the consumer is way ahead of this.
Yes.
It's really interesting because we started. Step One Foods was kind of out there, like, here's a website, maybe someone will come. And people came. And they were there. And the comments we would get would be, my doctor's not listening to me. I need to find something else. They're telling me I need to be on this drug. I don't want to be on this drug. This drug makes me feel bad. I need something else. Thank you for being here. So, and I just, in general, when this whole effort started for me, people weren't ready. And I think the consumer has moved a long way forward, and they figured out that something's up, right? Like, if everything's so good for us, right, why are we all so sick? And so things are just not adding up. So they are being more discriminating, and they're looking for products that actually have more science and more more data behind them. So I think part of it is going to be driven by the consumer as well. And ultimately everything survives depending upon where the money goes. Right, so if the consumer's deciding to put their money in a different spot, the whole industry will change.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you can see that, by the way, at General Mills. I mean, General Mills, I won't say anything. Anyway, General Mills has gone out and they bought 10 great brands. I think it's 10. Lara Bar and the Bison one, and Annie's, etc. They've gone and they've bought functional food brands because they know that they need to start providing better things. And we sell those great brands. We will not sell any of the mainline General Mills brands because they're just they don't meet our standards.
You have to be your own health advocate. I mean, unfortunately, that's just the reality.
Okay. It's about one. Bear with me just for another minute or two. Two questions, but lightning round, like one answer, one sentence answer. So first one is advice that you'd like to share with any aspiring entrepreneurs or business owners out there.
If you believe in something, go for it. Don't listen to the no's. If I listened to every no I got along the way, I wouldn't be here. And it is, if you know deep inside that what you're doing is the right thing, keep going. It'll all work out.
Yeah, I mean, just along those lines, people who can't do something will tell you you can't do something because they have their own limiting beliefs. So if you truly believe in what you are doing, it's going to take hustle, it's going to take hard work. The whole 4-hour work is complete BS. I mean, you're going to put in the work, but the reward is there.
Yes, Warren Buffett did not become a billionaire by sitting on his hands, and he didn't work a 40-hour work week. Perseverance would be the number one thing, and in some dictionaries, I'm sure we're all in it.
And a closing tidbit on the functional food category. Lightning round, though.
I mean, I think I said it when I said you have to be the advocate of your own health. There are companies, there are support systems out there who are on your team. It's just seeking out those individuals and those companies to figure out, okay, who am I going to play with? You know, who's part of my overall health care package?
Functional. This is a new frontier. It's almost limitless. It requires good people to bring good products that are honest and effective. But I think it's the most exciting place to be right now.
Yeah, imagine what we could do with functional food if we look back 20 years from now. And that's the kind of effect that we're trying to have. That's the kind of effect we're all trying to have. So, wow, it's about seeking it out. By the way, just a non-lightning round thing. Sorry, Rick.
No,
So
it's supposed to be lightning round.
Oh, I know. But take the mic away. Anyway, there's a card on all of your places. It's a $50 gift certificate. You can use it at our site. There's a code that isn't anywhere, but I'm about to tell it to you. It's ENIVA, ENIVA 25, and it's a $25 gift certificate. And you can buy any of ENIVA's products on our site, and you've got $25 free from them. And that's it.